Alrighty. All right. So, good morning, everyone. I am live. I think I'm live, and I'm going to check. I am supposed to be live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and even Instagram. I'm seeing a little error with X or Twitter, but I'll check that. But I'm checking in here. And as I check to see if I am live, and persons are coming on, please let me know where you are joining me from. I should have said good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on where in the world you are joining me from. Um, of course, I'm Debbie Jolie, and I am excited about today's live. So I'm checking here. LinkedIn looks live and up. If you are hearing me, and that's the first thing, let me know if you are hearing me and seeing me, right? This is a wonderful live that we're going to be discussing sales leadership, right? A space that I'm passionate about and also have a lot of experience there. I think I'm seeing Diane, good morning. All right, so we're live. We're looking live on LinkedIn. Let me go back to my Facebook and see if I'm live here quickly. If I'm live on Facebook and live on LinkedIn, I assume that I'll be live on the other platforms. Right. Okay, wonderful. Yes. Looking good so far. Right. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are joining me from. Debbie Jolie here. I'm a marketing strategist out of Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, that is the most southern twin island in the Caribbean. Today, I am going to have a wonderful discussion with a colleague of mine named Joshua Stewart. And Joshua has a lot of experience in telecommunications. And we're going to talk about sales leadership, which, of course, we have, quite a bit of background in. It's a space that I see as a challenge because organizations, especially in the Caribbean, of course, have aggressive targets year after year after year. They put their sales leaders, their sales managers, and their sales teams, of course, under pressure every year to hit these goals. And of course, there are lots of um, areas within a sales team that allows them to be successful, right? Leadership is one, culture is one, teamwork is one. So I'm excited about this conversation, and I'm going to bring Joshua on now. Let me see if I'm getting him on. Hi, Joshua.
Hi, morning, Debbie, and morning to your audience.
Wonderful. Right. So we're hearing you and seeing you well. So the first thing, Joshua, perhaps you can introduce yourself a little bit better than 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 I did. Just let the audience know a little bit about you, a little bit of background about you.
All right, so one of the things I would say is that I am Caribbean by heart and Caribbean by just geography. Born in Guyana, migrated to Antigua at a young age, and I'm Antiguan by citizenship. And worked a lot in retail, call center, and but more so telecoms. And my telecoms time, moved me to St. Vincent. Worked in Barbados and married a wonderful Trini that said, "Hey, you gotta move to Trinidad to really experience the Caribbean." And there you go. So moved to Trinidad with my wife, and but just passionate about sales. Sales is not the area I thought I would have really kind of adapted to, but life had different plans for me. And I just want to say that if you've never really thought of sales as something that you do, I want to say everybody sells. And even no matter what career you're in,
Yes.
learning some techniques about sales and, better yet, leading in sales is just a wonderful experience because it just crosses over so much different areas in life. Because we're selling our personality, we're selling a service or product. So I'm just happy to be here.
Right. Yeah. You touch on so many things there. I mean, and I share your sentiments as well because I started off in finance and then really loved marketing, but my exposure in my corporate space lent itself a lot to doing a lot of sales, right? And I agree with you. It doesn't matter what hat you wear, you have to understand sales, right? And then many of us, even persons who are in the entrepreneurial space, who sometimes say, "Oh gosh, I don't like sales." You have that is a part of building a brand, growing a business, networking with clients. You will get exposed to sales, right? So I think it's a space that persons need to really learn. So Joshua, I want to start off by asking you, because you've had experience in other territories in the Caribbean, and really I want to talk about sales in the Caribbean, and I see nuances. I see some similarities in the way in which we do things as Caribbean people, but I also see some nuances. So tell me, what do you think are some of the key leadership qualities that are important or essential for sales managers, sales leaders, helping them to lead their team and helping them to be successful?
I know you framed it in what's applicable to our culture, but I also saw a lot of similarities in the things that make sense in sales leadership as I moved around the Caribbean. And I'll start with the first one that I think every sales leader and every leader should look to adapt. And the first thing I would say is ethics and having an integrity about how you look at sales. There's already a connotation that sales is a kind of sleazy business. You're trying to manipulate me to buy something I don't want. So as soon as you hear someone or even detect that someone is trying to sell me something, the average
Yes.
person puts up a guard. And but I want to share two examples that really touched me over the years when it comes to ethics in sales. And I know I'm saying this from a salesperson perspective, but I also want to say, as a sales leader, you need to demonstrate the work that you want your team to follow. So I'm going to do a shameless plug for my insurance agent because it's so relevant in something I saw in her. So I have a
Yes.
sales agent, Giselle Alexander, best sales insurance agent I could think about, and I approached her and I was trying to get a service for myself and my wife, and she said something I was interested. She said, "Hey, Josh, we have this product, but I don't think our product is the best one for you. And um, here's a company that I think has a similar product, but I think it will be more suited for you." That was unique for me because I thought, wow, you're turning down business, but you're pointing me in a direction to get me the service that I wanted. So my wife and I
Right.
eventually went. We did sign up for that service, but here's what happened. A few months after, my wife came home and said, "Hey, I signed up a new annuity with Giselle, and it's perfect. I really think we need to start thinking about our future, because you don't know what's going to happen with pension and so forth." I said, "Hey, that's really
Yes.
good. I think I should get one myself." I signed up with an annuity with her. My wife went to work and started talking with her colleagues and said, "Hey, I signed, we got to start thinking about our future." And she started going through all the details about the annuity plan she signed up with her sales agent, Giselle. Giselle called her after and said, "Hey, what did you do? One of your colleagues called me, signed up. They didn't even want me to explain anything to them. They already told me you explained everything. They just told me to give it to me. I want to sign." My wife told me everything.
Wow.
Now, if Giselle might have went ahead and sold us a product that wasn't ideal for us, we probably might have signed up. She gained a sale. Who's to
Yes.
say later on figured out that this probably wasn't the best thing for me? We will not truly know, did she really have our best interest in mind? But because she led with her integrity first and trying to give us the product that was best for us, she gained exponential more sales in the long run. And we trust her now because it's going to
Mhm.
do so. I'll share an alternate version of that story that I am involved in, because one of the things I want to say, we learn from our mistakes more than anything else. And when I was a young sales leader, um, I'm leading my first direct sales team. They're doing door to door sales. I had a top salesperson. My gosh, she could sell anything. And, but it's part of a team.
Yes.
Eventually, the team came to me and said, "Hey, Josh, we realized that X salesperson is keep cutting corners. She's stretching the truth, and sometimes the customers are calling me back and saying, "Well, she offered me this package, and it wasn't exactly that." And here's
Mm.
the funny thing, though: she was just the top salesperson. As a young sales leader,
Hmm.
I kind of let it slide. I didn't want to mess with my top salesperson. I mean, the people that were complaining, they weren't as good in
Yes.
quote as her. They weren't closing as much sales. I
Yes.
ignored a lot of the red flags. Eventually, I had to let her go. But by the time I let her go, I lost so much credibility in my team because I was demonstrating to them it was more important for me to get you closing sales than doing things the right way. I
Wow.
learned from that lesson, recognizing that, hey, it's not enough for you to be a top salesperson if you're not going to do it the right way. And Giselle is a perfect example of the type of sales that you want to have. If you treat people the right way, you give people the right service and you serve them, you will get everything you need as a sales leader. So that's number one, I would say, just to really have ethics and integrity in how you lead your sales team. The second thing that is universal, I think energy and optimism is something that's contagious. I always say that even when I'm interviewing persons, especially for sales, I really look at resumes. I want to walk into a sales room or a interview and understand the person in front of me, because I think attitude, energy, optimism are things that you just can't replace. And it truly, especially in the world of sales. Because here's the reality: in most sales scenarios, you're going to
Yes.
talk to 100 persons, and more
Yes.
than likely, depending on what you're selling, you're probably going to get more rejections than you get approval. And
Absolutely.
with that, you really need to have a type of energy that shares person the perspective and to see the positive in what you're going through, because every one of those rejections is an opportunity to learn from. But as a leader, you have to make sure
Yes.
you could position that. You always have to have the energy for the team that when they don't necessarily have that, because as I said, energy is contagious. The
Mhm.
third thing is, it's kind of, I'm cheating here a little bit, Debbie, because it's really a strategy, but I want to say it's part of a perspective that you should have as a sales leader. You have to have a love for numbers.
Mhm.
Sales
Mhm.
without thinking about numbers, you're still half the way there. When I started out in sales, I thought it was about motivation. I thought my job was to motivate my team and to pump them up every day and just to kind of send them out and just be motivated, just be positive. And I missed the side of the numbers and just understanding the numbers, because here's what I've come to realize: sales have patterns. If you do it long enough, you'll start seeing the patterns in what's going on. And especially in, if you're, for me, I have a lot of experience in both B2B sales and direct sales. So
Right.
let's use a perspective of direct sales. And if you're someone that has to do home to home sales, this is what I've recognized. Over time, I could look at the numbers and see if my sales agent goes to 100 homes and there's a certain amount of person they're going to get at home for whatever reason. And I've looked at that and I could see, hey, for every 100 homes they go to, probably 50 persons are going to be at home. Uh-huh. And for every 50 person that are at home and you engage them, I've seen that eventually they signed up 20 of those persons. Right
Right.
there, if I know that my goal is for you to sign up 40 persons per month, I'm
Right.
already doing the maths. I'm thinking, hey, you need to go to 200 homes, because if you go to 200 homes, probably you're going to meet 100 persons, and the
Yes.
likelihood is you're going
Yes.
to sign up 40 of them. So here's what I now challenge my team for. I am not so concerned about you signing up 40 persons, because here's what I want you to focus on. I want you to go and knock on 200 doors, because that's one thing you have control over. You don't have any control over probably how much of them sign up, how much of them is at home. But you know the one thing you have control over? You can go and knock on 200 doors. And that means at the end of the day, if I know you need to knock on 200 doors per month, then I'm getting very specific with you. I'm saying, hey, if you need to knock on 200 doors per month, I need you to knock on 50 doors per week. And that means I need you to knock on 2 doors every single day. So when I'm
Yeah.
talking to you, I'm talking to you in terms of the very specific. I want you
Yes.
to go out and knock on 2 doors every day without fail, and the sales will come. And just to be specific. So I would say these are three. It's, and again, the last one's kind of a cheat. It's more of a strat, but it's a personality, because if you don't
Yes.
love that numbers and see that, and also embrace your team to kind of embrace that same numbers and to really get that as part of you, then it becomes natural. And so if you couple that with the motivation and the number, you're kind of halfway there.
I like that. I now, I like the idea of what you said about the numbers and a discussion, because I've discussed that with my team already, or teams in the past, and to me, um, many times I think salespersons don't, or say, yes, sales reps don't have a good appreciation of that. As the sales manager, you have these reports, and you have to, how many of these types of customers and that type of customers, and the margins and so on. And I have tried to create a space where they have an appreciation of what that is, right? And exactly what you said, how that ties to work, right? Because again, each organization and size of organization, to me, I work in some B2B spaces where it was much more project based. So the sale was three, four, five sales, right? As opposed to, let's say, signing up 200 persons, right? So the nature of it really requires, to me, a sales manager to break that down for salespersons, because at times they don't get that granular at all. And tying that back to the organization and tying that back to the business goals, to me, is really, really important. And I really love your first one, because there is a guy I follow here as well called Dale Dupree, and he talks about servant leadership, and he always speaks from that point of view, right? I'm here to help my customers, I'm here to serve my customers, I'm here to do right by them, right? And I think you're right that sales have, I think it has evolved a little bit. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think we think of it as that sleazy anymore. But in following him for the last few years, he has reinforced a sort of idea and a philosophy that I have had, that was kind of, I would say, was blinded a little bit by sales and running down the numbers, and it was about building the relationship with clients. And if you build the relationships well, and you build it from an authentic space, then you're likely to get referrals, just as you mentioned there, as Giselle got referrals as well. So I think that is, I think, being intentional with your clients, is a good space to be in, because you really want to build that relationship. It's not just a one-off thing. At least in my mind, I don't think of clients as a client I have in 2025. It might be a client that might come back like 3 years later. So I think it's just a shift that we have to have, and a dialogue that we have to have with our, salespeople and sales teams and so on, right? So with that said, I want to encourage persons. Diane is there. I'm seeing some hearts and some and some likes here. I want to encourage persons to tell me, as you are live, let me know where in the world you are joining me from. Feel free to add any comments, add any questions here as we go along with this discussion here, right? So Joshua, let me switch a little bit now, because we were talking a little bit about strategies here, and I want you to, motivating teams, you know over a period of time can get tricky, right? Motivating a sales team every day for, a full calendar year and talking about these goals and targets can actually get tricky. So tell me, what strategies or what practices do you think are important for sales leaders, again, to want to manage their team well? Because I think that's tricky. Sometimes some sales leaders are actually account managers themselves, and that creates a space where, they are not just managing their team, but they're also managing client accounts, and you could get busy and so on. So what do you think are some, important strategies there in terms of managing the team, and of course keeping that team motivated for a full calendar year, and helping them to hit those targets?
All right. So, Debbie, I'm going to give your team a gem here. Now, if you've missed anything, I
Mm-hmm.
want you to draw closer. This is, I would say, the diamond of leadership. If you could get these four things right, you're you're probably going to really ace it. And it's not even if you're in sales. I want to tell you, if you're in management, you're in leading, you're leading a team,
Mm-hmm.
focus on these four things. Number one, I think as a leader, you need to be clear on the instructions that your team needs to have. It needs to be clear from the get-go, from as clear as hiring the person. What is the objective of this job? What does it mean to be successful? There's a lot of times as a salesperson, you're just not sure what is the objective, what is the goal, what is success in this job, what does it look for, what is the culture that I'm going to be doing. Right in the interview, you want to be very clear from the job description, everything that's doing to do with this job, you want to get there. I remember in an interview recently, I looked at a group of staff and said, listen to me, this job is not for everyone. If you're here simply because you want a job, and I know that's hard for you to accept, I know
Yeah.
I'm telling you, but I want to be clear with you. Don't accept this if this is not for you. Sales, for example, is not for everyone. It's not a
Correct.
bad thing. It's just not for
Yes.
everyone. If you don't love this, if you don't love the grind and what it takes to be here, then don't stay. I also
And
let people know the
challenges. Yeah.
correct. You need to
Yeah.
also know what's the outcome of this. What are you signing up for? Right there in that interview, I said, listen, if you miss your target 3 months in a row, you're not going to be here. I want to give you the extreme side of this because it's not just kumbaya. This is a very results oriented job. You're going to get all the tools you need to do it, but if you're not successful, you're not going to be here. And I want you to be clear on that. You
Right.
want to be clear on the job and the expectation. All right, that's one. Number two, you got to give your team the tools to get their job done well. What does that mean? If you're in a call center and you're going to get through a certain, are there specific scripts that you actually want to be covered? That's not that your team should be reading from a script, and I'm not saying that. But it should give them a sense and a standard and a tone for what you are experiencing. I'll give you yesterday I was sitting in the call center at one of the clients I consult with, and I'm listening to the person next to me, and they're saying, hello, how can I help you? And right there, all my triggers just went off, and I couldn't remember his name exactly. And I pulled to the supervisor, hey, can you remind me the name of the person that's sitting next to me? And she told me. I pulled close and I said, hey, is everything okay today? And he's like, well, yeah. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, everything is okay. I said, do you have any idea why I'm asking if you're okay? He's like, well, I'm not sure. I said, well, I'm listening and I'm hearing the tone of your voice and I'm listening to the way you're talking to the customer, and something doesn't sound right. I just want to ensure you're okay. I know this job can be frustrating and so on. And I was like,
Mm.
why? I'm saying don't ever let the situation that you're going through now affect the way that you're going to be dealing with. You should always be delivering your best, not just for the job you're in, but for probably the next job. Even if you're not feeling 100% in the job you're in now, don't think if I get to the next job I'm just going to adjust, I'm going to be more motivated. I said you should never drop your standard. I said I didn't hear you introduce your name, I didn't hear you introduce the company, and that's part of what he said. Well, I don't know. I said sometimes the customer cut me. I said no, don't ever drop your standards. And I sat there, and for the remainder of the day, I saw an instant change in his attitude, his the way he did that. And sometimes as leaders, we wait till some one-on-one. Sometimes you just have to draw close to someone and just give them feedback.
Yes.
And that leads right into that third one, feedback.
Agreed. Hmm.
Feedback is critical for the job. There are times that you tell people what they got to do, you give them all the tools, but then they don't hear anything back from you for 3 months, 6 months, or probably when it's already too late. And then you pull them into a meeting and say, hey, it's not
Yes.
working out. You're not
Yes.
being great at sales. I'm getting all these complaints. No, no, no.
Yes.
Feedback should be a systematic, schedule things that is done, good and bad. It shouldn't just be when something goes bad, then you're being pulled into a meeting to be told it's being bad. So is it weekly? Do you have a weekly briefing session that you're going to be reviewing the sales of your team to say, hey, you did excellent this week. You were able and find something positive to share. There must be something genuine that you could really share. They didn't hit the sales target, but they actually called 100 customers, and the expectation was them to call 80. So they were grinding it. And you want to be able to say,
Right.
hey, thank you for calling 100 customers. You know what? I've listened to about five of them, and I've picked up a few things that I saw that you could have done better. Can we listen to them together? Listen to
Right.
them, share it, and that you could be very specific and constructive in what they're doing. If
Mhm.
something is not coming along, it should be consistent after what? So to the point when you get to an issue that it's not a surprise. And
Yes.
there is where the reward comes in. If someone is doing something well, reward them. You have to reward the things that you want to be repeated. So there must be some sort of not just money, not just the commission. There must be something else. It's something else that drives them up. I always love things like tiered commission structure or something that goes on top of what is already being done. I love to simply just take my team out to lunch or just say, hey man, you guys really killed it today. Can we go out for lunch? It's on me. Let's talk about what's happening. It's sometimes the small things that just happen. You're coming from somewhere else. You know they're going to be there. They're talking with the B2B clients and they close some of that. Hey, really great job. Let's talk about what you did well here. Here is something I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you is one of the easiest things to say, and sometimes we just get so busy we don't say it enough. The fourth thing that is tied to that is accountability. There are times that we see something is falling down. You know, I heard a phrase recently that a red flag is a red flag. There are times
Hmm.
people tell us who they are, and we project the things that we want in them, and we stay longer with someone that is already just not meant to be there. It's not your job to force someone to be in a position they don't want to be. It's your job to do the first three things, to make sure they have clear instructions, make sure they
Yes.
have the tools to do their job, make sure you give them feedback and reward it. But when you get and you've done all these things and it's not working, you need to have an honest conversation with someone. One of the books that really changed my life when I started to understand how to manage team was a book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott. I am more on the side of care personally. I'm someone that I'm always that people person. Where I struggled was how to hold people accountable. And I felt like all the cliches, I don't want to take bread out of someone's mouth. Maybe the person just needed more support. And I missed the
Yes.
accountability part. And I realized that challenging someone directly is actually caring. There are some people that just don't have the guts to say, it's not for me. And you're doing them a favor by coming to saying, hey, we've really been at this. We've tried this, and we've gone through training. I've sat on you on calls. I've gone through, and it's just not working. Um,
Yes.
I just think we got to go in a different direction. By the time you're having that conversation, though, it's not a surprise. They're not in tears wondering why it took you so long to let me know that. And as of late, the people I've had those conversations with, it's amazing. We meet each other. Some of them are thriving in their new career because I helped them by closing the door that wasn't meant for them so that they could actually find something that was truly meant to be their zone. Where they were just wasn't for them. So holding someone accountable is not a bad thing. It's actually a gift you're giving to someone. So those four things, if you could do those four things well, motivation is going to go through the roof because most people want to be challenged. It seems like I just want to be given a pep. No, but they know when they're messing up. They know when they're not doing a good job. And
Yes.
you simply telling them they're doing a good job, as a trainee would say, you're mama guying me. I don't want that. I want you to be honest, genuine with me, motivate me, tell me the truth, but you got to do those things. Give people instructions, give them the tools to get their job done, give them feedback and reward them when they do something well. And when all
Yes.
those fail, you got to be prepared to hold people accountable. So those are the
Yes.
four gems I would say a strategy to really lead them.
Excellent. I agree. I totally agree there with you, Joshua. Diane is asking you to repeat the name of the book you just mentioned there.
All right. So the book is Radical Candor by Kim Scott. And that book, the premise of that book is how do I care personally while challenging directly? And it's finding that balance. I think it's a reading that any leader I think should be on your desk. It should always be there.
Awesome. I like that. I want to mention the some thing that to me that worked well when I worked in an organization. I didn't stay very long in the organization. The culture there, it really wasn't conducive, and I came in, and the sales team itself felt very battered and abused, right? You would think that they would feel that they are at the top of the food chain, and they always felt battered and abused. And I would say that one of the things, and I'm still, great friends with many of them. One of the things that helped me to, create a synergy there, that helped me to have trust with that team, and really that helped, that I would be able to get them to do more in a space where they felt that they were underappreciated, was really that feedback, right? Because I would say, you gave me some information here, you didn't give me all, you didn't tell me the challenges here, how can I help you, right? And they didn't have those types of discussions, and so the feedback was always the feedback to me really helped them to trust me. And of course I did, I'm a foodie, so I would always carry them for lunch, and that really helped, to create a synergy between them and I. And it really helped, to get persons to go above and beyond when they really do not want to, or they really don't, they don't see, management or executive or C suite teams as supporting them. I thought that was a big win for me, because I came into a space where they were very skeptical of anybody coming in as a sales leader there. But I built that rapport, and I think the feedback, as you said, was important, because it wasn't always good feedback. I did say, listen, I'm not seeing things happening here. You didn't give me all that information. And so it took a little time, but we were able to build that trust. And I think that was what helped me, at least helped me for the time that I was with that particular food. So I agree with you, those things are super, super important. All right, so Joshua, last question here as we begin to wrap up. And of course, I open up the floor to anyone else that may have questions. Feel free to drop in the questions as we talk here about sales leadership. What advice would you give to sales leaders in the Caribbean? What advice would you give perhaps newer persons in a sales leadership position, right? Who really want to, as I mentioned, they might be coming into a team that has their own synergy, and you are coming in as an outsider. What type of advice would you give to a sales person or a sales leader, sales manager that is coming in, and they want to really create synergy, they want to grow their team? What should they be doing?
Now, I mentioned a lot of strategies before,
Mhm.
but if you're to wrap these strategies and to focus on two things, I would say you'll do an excellent job. A lot of what you do with sales and people is your perception. and how do you approach situation? How do you see people? Because remember, sales is about people. It's an interesting thing. When I moved from being a great salesperson to being a sales leader, I realized that I couldn't just translate the skills that I adapted in terms of serving and just being great at sales and simply
Yes.
just getting sales people now to adapt that. It humbled me and recognized that people are all different. And
Yes.
you now have to really look at your perception. I made a lot of mistakes. I took on different approach. Do I need to be the harsh boss and put my feet
Yeah.
down because or do I need to be the
Yes.
nice boss and try to, and then
Yes.
a lot of that failed. But here are some things that never failed.
Yeah.
Number one, I have seen, and this is a perception and an opinion and an approach. My approach may not work for you, but I have seen by adding and seeing the best in people,
Mm.
change the way I approach them. Because
Yeah.
in sales, I want you to be successful. We're trying to hit our targets. I have targets to meet,
Yes. Yes.
and I can try to manipulate you to get to those objectives,
Mm-hmm.
or I could motivate you. And here's the difference. The difference of those two words simply comes from what is the perspective at which you're looking at a person. If you're looking at a person with an objective to to see the best in people. Now, can you get burned with this? You see the best in the person, but this person was just someone that was looking to work the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of
Yeah.
happened. But here's what I have seen more times than not.
Yes.
Most people want to do well. And I mean, if you've done your work, you've recruited well, you've looked for the right attitude and culture and so forth, and they're there in front of you, they want to do well.
Agreed.
So in seeing the best in them, it
Yes.
helps you now to seek to motivate them, trying to get to a win-win situation and not just trying to get them to accomplish your objective. And let me tell you what that looks like in a practical scenario. I always want to know where my team want to go. Hey, what's your goal? What's your dream? Sometimes we ask these questions like, hey, where do you want to be in 5 years? Or no, what's your dream? And I might be in a space, and let's say in telecoms, and then someone says, hey, I want to own my cosmetology business in 5 years. The average person would shut that off and say, well, that doesn't really help me here. But no,
Yeah.
I'm excited here. Tell me more about that. Is it that you want to run the business? Have you done any training? They're like, yeah, I've always been passionate about doing nails. And I'm like, great. Let's think about it. Let's unpack this. What do you think are some skills that you need to have to open a cosmetology business? Okay, well, do you know you got to be good at sales too, because you got to get customers. You got to be
Mm.
great at customer service management things. So here's one. Here are some skills that you're going to have to get there. You're going to have to raise some funds and some capital. Let's work on a plan together. So while you're here and you're trying to get to that goal, here are the things that I could help you with, that you could gain those skills here while you get to your goals for being a cosmetology leader. Is that a 5-year plan? Great. So let's work with you for 5 years. Here's the thing I know. I'm going to
Yeah.
get the best out of that person, out of the
Yeah.
next 5 years, the next 3 years, while they're in the business that I am aware and trying to get you to your goal. The last thing I would say
That's a
is
good
add,
one, Joshua,
yeah,
actually. That's really good because I am certain that a lot of sales leaders don't do that. And if you were to have that type of discussion with your sales team, and you understand what they want out of life and what they need, and you can tie it back in the way in which you just mentioned, you'll actually be able to get the most out of them. So that's a good point. I didn't think about it in that space. Yes.
yeah. And the last thing I would say is just add value to people. As a sales leader, and it is a bonus one. I want to encourage you to be someone that really want to grow and want to expand. I've come from someone that, my gosh, I was not a reader. And, within the last couple of years, I've just become an avid reader. And I've gained so much, and especially in sales, I started following person like Grant Cardone and some of the, look for the
Yes,
people that have actually been great at it. Now, their strategies, all of their strategy may not align with you, but there's always
correct.
something in there that
Yes,
I could take. I read all of
yes,
Grant Cardone's books. I'm now huge into leadership. I'm a Maxwell Leadership Certified coach, and so now I'm always reading, books on leadership and things I can grow. This is on my shelf right now. This is a book that is already starting to change the way I think about how I'm adding value to my team. It's called The Charismatic Leader by John C. Maxwell. It's 21 skills to connect with people. And as a
yes.
sales leader, you got to be able to connect with people. So I would say add value to your team
Mm,
and believe the best in them.
yes,
If you could do that, I really think it's going to help you to build trust with your team, and it's something that it's missing so much in industry, because it always seems like it's the management against the staff, and they want to hit
yes,
these targets, and you're keeping me back, and it doesn't have to get there. I want you to be successful. Like, my goal is for you to be successful. I believe if I'm invested in your success
yes.
while I have you here, I believe we're going to do well together. But you know what? I would love for you to be the one to come to tell me, hey, Josh, I could give you a year. And I'm like, great. Let's see how what we can
Mhm.
do in the next year. Because the
Yes,
alternative is
yeah,
18 months down the road, you get a 2 weeks notice. You thought this was someone you were building a career with,
yeah,
and you thought that it's not your job to determine what they want for themselves. It's your job to
very
find out and try to get them there. And while you're getting them there, how could you maximize their talent when you're in the same space? And while that happens, that's life. You could change, you could bring in new talent and change the team. And I don't think things are always meant to be the same. And if you're
yeah.
able to embrace that,
Wow.
then it works for you and it gets there. So that's it.
Yeah, that's a whole mindset shift to Joshua. That person's we realize that, listen, people stay in spaces for a limited time, and it's really our jobs as sales leaders, sales managers, to help maximize the people while they are there, and that's why I love the fact that you said, you read all these, you read now, you read so much now, and that's some thing I think sales managers can also do for themselves, but also encourage their teams to do, because sales, when I started in 2004, is looks radically different to what it is right now. And I think that we can get better at sales leadership and sales in general if we keep up to date with the way in which things change, the way technology has changed, the way different organizations, approach sales, because it is an evolving space, right? It's an evolving space. To me, it's gotten more exciting, and I think that would help salespeople as well, because certain industries are sort of trapped in a specific way in which they do sales that now I think is a little bit archaic. And so there is a need to look at what is happening out there. How are you embracing technology? How are you using new tools, CRMs, etc., to help you, right? And not seeing it as, oh gosh, the organization wants this again, or they want more things. But how can this really help you become, a better salesperson, and a better sales leader? So I think it's a wonderful space. It's a constantly evolving space. So Joshua, before we close, let persons know how they can work with you, how they can contact you. Just give them a little bit of information there.
All right. So I would say probably the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. You can look for me on LinkedIn as Joshua O. Stewart. And I particularly am passionate about leadership coach. I'm someone that wants to work with executives, salespersons, probably leaders that want to get clear on their vision, want to understand how am I going to resolve the objectives that is keeping me from accomplishing my goal, get clear on my options, and hey, how do I hold myself accountable to getting these things done. I'm also just an avid business development consultant. I love seeing the end to end side of the business in terms of understanding where is it that my business is today and where do I want to go and what are the phases in that business to put things together. I've been gifted to work in so many different areas over my years, from sales to customer service to operations. So I have a unique perspective of seeing how all the pieces go together, so that if there's bottleneck within the business, I'm able to see, hey, how do we shift those bottlenecks so that we can try to be efficient and accomplish the goals that we want to have done. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's Joshua O. Stewart, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Joshua. I appreciate this conversation. We must have a part two. I think the accountability discussion is a good one as well, too, because it is a difficult space. I've had challenges there as well because I've been the nice manager, and therefore, how can you balance that as a sales leader? As well as trying to keep your team accountable for the things that they are supposed to do, as well as the things that they have promised to deliver as well. So we need to have a definitely a part two for sure.
It would be remiss of me to not shout out some of my peeps. I see came in. Hey, Darren. I see Darren coming in from Antigua. And I have
Yes.
the most supportive mother in the world. I sent her my link, and my mom Ingrid just joined in from Guyana. I am so thankful
Oh,
you
great.
to see you on. She is my
Really
one of my
nice.
biggest supporters, and I just want to say thank you for her. I'm sure my wife is also on and cheering me on. So as a leader, you are nothing without family, and I'm so happy to know that I have my friends and family supporting me.
Agreed, agreed. Wonderful. So thank you so much, Joshua. And thank you to the audience. And we will be back for another live very, very soon. You guys take care and have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.
All right, take care, everyone.